Okay. Hey, everybody. I'm back. I'm so tired of doing it. I'm like, I have no enthusiasm for what we're going to talk about today. This is the Dystopian Dance Party podcast, I guess. And we're talking about, if you haven't guessed, we're talking about The Love Guru. This movie, I did not have high expectations for, and it failed to meet those low expectations. It was so bad. It was worse than I expected it to be. It doesn't help that we're 11 months in to our 12 months, so we're like so fucking sick of Mike Myers. Like it's not even funny. And then for this to be his universally accepted, except by the one, I don't remember if that was Terry the Man or one YouTube commenter said wanted us to watch the Indian movie. So it has at least one fan, but I feel like everybody else recognizes this as Mike Myers' absolute worst movie, and it is that's the one area in which it did not disappoint. It is one of the worst movies I've ever seen. So we're going to talk about that. So that's fun. And then we've got one more Shrek, and then we can just put this whole thing behind us. Like, just forget about all of it. I think it's just fascinating to me because, like, when we came into this, I almost want to go back and listen to the first couple episodes again, because I feel like when we came into this, we didn't have any illusions about how good Mike Myers' overall catalog was, but we were like, oh, let's rediscover it. Let's see his work in context. And now that we've watched all of these and ended on The Love Guru, I could die happy without ever seeing Mike Myers' stupid face again.
Well, this will be the last time we have to see his face.
That's true.
Because the last one will be Shrek, and we don't technically have to see Mike Myers' face.
That's true, but I don't want to see Shrek's fucking face again either. So it's like, it's a real... the real pick your poison situation. But at least it'll be a change of pace, I guess. So a couple of comments. Not many people watched our last one because it was, I don't blame you. The only thing worse than listening to our last podcast would be actually watching Shrek the Third. So, but we did get a couple of comments. Jay May, so the sound quality was bad. Let me speak to that briefly. I put a webcam on my computer, and I thought I'd call Callie and see if the webcam was working, not thinking that it would rewrite Skype's default settings so that the sound was coming from the webcam. So the whole time it sounded like I was in a bathroom in the other room watching Shrek the Third. It's horrible. But anyway, so Jay May said it's raw and a bootleg, perfect. So yeah, it was in step with the fact that we were watching a pirated, a self-pirated version of the movie. It was all of a piece. You could say I should have claimed that this was like a conceptual thing, but no, it was just me being an idiot. So hopefully I sound better this time. If I don't, tough shit. So Marty White, he said, I've been a loyal listener for a few years. We've definitely noticed that. Congratulations for sticking it out through this shit show for the last 11 months. He says, I have to give you guys a trophy for making it through these movies every month. The only one I've watched from start to finish was Wayne's World 1. It made me chuckle a few times. I'm an atheist, but I will believe in God if the masters of all Mike Myers films burned in the universal fire. Yeah, I don't have anything to add to that. And then Jukebox Cowboy said, in reference to the cover of Shrek the Third, Fiona looks depressed. Hooking up with Shrek was a really bad idea. I think that's like the moral of those movies. I think it's a cautionary tale about marrying an ogre, I guess.
Or at least Shrek.
Or at least Shrek.
I want to know if the other ogres are as horrible of a person as Shrek is.
Yeah, we don't know, because he was supposed to be like the only one, and then there was another one. And are they the only ogres? The more I'm thinking about it, are they like the last of their race? You would think that the movie would make a bigger deal out of that.
Yeah.
I guess
maybe that's long. That's why they have like 100 babies or whatever it is.
Yeah, maybe that's what Shrek Forever After is about. They're like repropagating the entire ogre species. They have enough sex, so
I think what we need answered in Shrek the Fourth is how big Shrek's dick is.
That would explain a lot, wouldn't it? Because Fiona really puts up with a lot.
Yep.
uh, well, speaking of dick sizes, we're talking about The Love Guru, where a recurring gag is that Justin Timberlake's character has a really massive wang. So that's the level of comedy we're at today. Blessedly, I was looking at Wikipedia before we started recording, and blessedly, there's not a lot of background information. The closest thing to background is this Entertainment Weekly article from 2008, which if you read it in retrospect is really, it's quite tragic. It's called Mike Myers, Man of Mystery. And the subtitle is, "Now, after a long absence from the screen, Myers is back, but not everyone is rooting for him." We've actually quoted from this article a few times because this is like, they interviewed Penelope Spheris, and this is where we got her comments about her horror story with Mike during Wayne's World. It's good to put into perspective because, I mean, if you recall, we'd already seen Mike Myers tank his career once with Cat in the Hat. And then he kind of, he made a comeback with Shrek. It's probably his most successful movie now, or certainly his most successful movie series. But The Love Guru was kind of supposed to be his comeback to live action adult comedy. And well, we all know how that went. So if you have the time, I would check out this Entertainment Weekly article. It really, you get a new layer of irony when you read it after having seen The Love Guru. A couple things that I'll pull out from it though. So Mike Myers, he called The Love Guru not just a vehicle for a new set of catchphrases, which we'll get to that. There actually are not very many catchphrases in this movie, and the ones that there are suck. It's an effort to impart uplifting messages about love, joy, and self-acceptance. It's a delivery system for some wonderful ideas, Myers told EW, Entertainment Weekly, in April. He declined to be interviewed for this story. "People may say bad things about you, but you won't say bad things about yourself. The only way out is in. You're responsible for your own health and happiness." So yeah, those are definitely 3 quotes from the movie. This just boggled my mind because I with the whole time I was watching it, I was like, I thought that we weren't supposed to be taking the Love Guru's advice seriously because he's clearly an idiot. But apparently these are deeply felt spiritual beliefs that Mike Myers was trying to impart. He just went about it by putting them in the mouth of a patently ridiculous character and making us hate that character. So there you go. Apparently the birth of this movie, this is from the same article. It says, around the time of the second Austin Powers film, Myers was asked by a magazine what he was reading. One of the books he mentioned was Deepak Chopra's 7 Laws of Spiritual Success, which led Chopra to contact Myers, and the two met at Chopra's Center for Wellbeing in Carlsbad, California. Deepak Chopra said, "He spent a couple of days with me and we just hit it off. He was much more serious than I expected him to be. He was very well informed, not only about Eastern philosophy, but about Western philosophical traditions. The meeting spawned a friendship that has borne professional fruit for each in unexpected ways. Myers had first tinkered with the character of Guru Pitka in the mid-1990s." So that's interesting. Like we always say that all of Mike Myers' ideas he came up with in the mid-'80s, but I guess some of them he came up as late as the mid-'90s. But as his relationship with Chopra deepened, he became completely absorbed in it, listening to Chopra's audiobooks to pick up his accent. That's fucked up. And workshopping material in private shows in New York comedy clubs. For his part, Chopra was inspired by Myers to write an inspirational novel called Why Is God Laughing? The story of a comedian named Mickey Fellows, who, like Myers, begins a spiritual quest after the death of his father. Myers contributed the foreword to the book, which was published earlier this month. The two are in constant discussions, Myers told EW. And in fact, Deepak Chopra is in this movie, and he appears to have given his blessing to be in this movie. So is his son Gotham. His son Gotham Chopra plays Deepak in a flashback. Callie, was Gotham Chopra in your era of Channel 1 News when you were in high school?
I don't know, honestly. I remember Channel 1 News, but I don't think I paid enough attention to know if Deepak Chopra's son was in it.
Yeah. Yeah, so I remember Gotham Chopra because, I guess just because of his name and because Channel 1 News was corny. My friends and I had a semi-ironic obsession with Gotham Chopra in high school that actually extended us going to see a movie called Bulletproof Monk that I think is based on a comic book that Gotham Chopra might have written. I think that's the story behind that. It had Chow Yun-fat and Sean William Scott. This was in 2003. And it sucked. It was a really bad movie. But you know what? I would rather watch Bulletproof Monk again than The Love Guru ever. So there you go. So that's kind of that's the backstory. One thing, here's a mystery that I don't have the answer to. This movie was co-written by a guy named Graham Gordy. And I looked him up because I noticed that like he didn't have a Wikipedia page. I'm like, who the fuck is Graham Gordy? And why did he inflict this movie on us? And when you go to his IMDb page, I'm not really any the wiser. His previous, this is his second writing credit after a movie called War Eagle, Arkansas, which is IMDb says it's about a high school baseball star must choose between pursuing a college sports career and staying near family and friends in his struggling rural Ozark Mountains community. So not anything like The Love Guru, except I guess that sports are involved. I don't know I don't know. Like why did Mike Myers co-write this with this random guy named Graham Gordy, who then went on to he wrote for True Detective. Like what? I don't have anything to add about this. I'm just it's just bizarre to me.
I don't know why it was written. That's
square one. Yeah, why was it written? Why was it written by?
I never moved past square one.
What I did find on Wikipedia, this is something that I blessedly don't remember. Myers appeared in the 7th season finale of American Idol as Pitka, the spiritual director of that show.
Well, we didn't watch American Idol, and thank God. And I feel like the overlap for people who enjoy American Idol and like Love Guru is
it's got to be disturbingly wide. Like that Venn diagram is like, I don't think they're a circle, but there's some overlap for sure. The finalists David Cook and David Archuleta. I don't fucking know. I don't watch American Idol, but they got to visit the Paramount Pictures Studio Theater to see The Love Guru a month prior to its release.
I need to see this.
And then got to meet Myers dressed like Pitka and playing Sitar Hero. So there's some interesting. Yeah, if we can dig this up on YouTube, we'll probably throw it in the show notes. The film did poorly at the box office. In its opening weekend, it grossed $13.9 million, ranking number 4 and falling short of the $20 million range that was forecast by the people who forecast these things. It ended up grossing a total of $32.2 million in the United States and Canada, and only an additional $8.7 million overseas, for a total of $40.8 million worldwide against a budget of $62 million. So this movie lost over $20 million. When it was released in the UK, it ranked only number 8 on the opening weekend. So that kind of, reading between the lines there, that kind of answers my question. I had like a morbid curiosity about what people of Indian descent thought of this movie. And,
well, I did some cursory research from Wikipedia, and I guess it wasn't like Indians per se. It was American, like Hindus, because the American Hindu community was worried that it would. They were worried that, I don't know, stink mob might be a little offensive to Hinduism. But then for some reason, like they were given a showing. I guess it was supposed to be like well in advance of the release, but it was a pre-screen for the film, like after the film was completely done. Right. And they just had like a pre-screening like the night before the film was released.
Which kind of suggests they didn't have a lot of confidence in how that was going to play to the Hindu American Foundation.
Right. But then they concluded that the film was vulgar and crude, but not necessarily anti-Hindu.
So, according to the Hindu American Foundation, it's almost like it's too bad to be offended by it, which I can understand that.
Which is what I've been saying about Mike Myers comedy since at least Fat Bastard, which is like, yes, this is like fat phobic and horrible, but it's like you can't even reach the point where you're offended about it for being problematic because it's just so fucking bad.
Right.
That it
right.
like the main thing that offends me is that it's so bad.
And based on those box office numbers, like when you consider it only made $8.7 million overseas, meaning like everywhere else in the world other than North America, less than $9 million. So I think people in India didn't see it. Like that's the answer is not, it's not, did they like it or not? They didn't fucking see it. And then, also when you consider that it was ranked so low in its opening weekend in the UK, that's probably the country with the second highest population of Indian people. They didn't fucking see it either. So I mean, there you go. Like that was my question answered. Rotten Tomatoes obviously has this is a very low approval rating, 14% based on 174 reviews, with an average rating of 3.32 out of 10. The website's critical consensus reads, "The Love Guru features far too many gross out gags and too few earned laughs, ranking as one of Mike Myers' poorest outings." I think you can just strike one of right off there. I would watch Goldmember again before this, like,
yeah, 100%.
At least Goldmember had one funny part. And I just wanted to read a couple of quotes from reviews. These are Wikipedia pulled these out. Jay Stone of the National Post gave the film 1 star and said the film is shockingly crass, sloppy, repetitive, and thin. He said Chopra is used almost as a product placement, taking a proud spot alongside a circus, a brand of cinnamon buns, the Leafs, and of course Mike Myers. And A.O. Scott, I actually remember this one. A.O. Scott of the New York Times wrote, "The word unfunny surely applies to Mr. Myers' obnoxious attempts to find mirth in physical and cultural differences, but does not quite capture the strenuous unpleasantness of his performance. No, the Love Guru is downright anti-funny, an experience that makes you wonder if you will ever laugh again." That's one of my all-time favorite movie burns. And I guess last but not least, there's also obviously this won a lot of Golden Raspberries. It won Worst Picture. It won Worst Actor for Mike Myers. Worst Actress, Jessica Alba was nominated. I've got to say, like, Jessica Alba was not good in this. Nobody was good in this, but I wouldn't even rank her in the top 10 worst things about this movie. I guess they just wanted an actress, and she's, the only woman in the fucking movie. Well, Megan Good's in it. But I feel like that was just so they could get another Love Guru nomination in there. It wouldn't have even occurred to me that she was one of the problems with this movie.
Right.
Now, worst supporting actor, Ben Kingsley. That now we're fucking talking.
Yeah.
Ben and somehow he didn't win. Him and Vern Troyer were both nominated, but this is a real. I know that Ben Kingsley is not like. Ben Kingsley is weird because on the one hand he's like the male Meryl Streep, like you think of him as this classy, sophisticated actor. But on the other hand, I definitely remember him in the Prince of Persia movie with Jake Gyllenhaal. So like he's not very discriminating, but I feel like this has to be an all-time low for him. Not least because he's doing like an Indian minstrel act. It's so demeaning. It's unbelievable.
The closest like Meryl Streep came to is, I guess, her role in Mamma Mia, but she looked perfectly lovely and was a great singer in that, compared to Ben Kingsley constantly being like cross-eyed and just repeating "stink bop." Stink mop. One of the jokes in this movie is just Ben Kingsley saying "stink mop." Just FYI.
And we'll explain what stink mop is, and that's definitely one of the most surreal moments. I was watching that scene and I was like, this man won an Academy Award for playing Gandhi. So he was only nominated. I definitely think he deserved to win. Director Marco Schnabel was nominated. Mike Myers and Graham Gordy, the mystery man Graham Gordy, won for worst screenplay. And then Mike Myers was nominated for worst actor of the decade for this and Cat in the Hat, like sort of a lifetime achievement, but he did not appear to win that one. So that's the Love Guru. And like I said, this is not going to be a revisionist reading. This is not, this is actually a classic. This movie was really fucking bad. I watched it with my girlfriend, who was not, I don't think she looked at the screen for an extended period of time at any point. So she was more listening to it. And and after we finished watching it, she was like, I actually hate Mike Myers now. I was thinking a couple of episodes ago, I can't remember when it was, but I made an offhand joke about Jim Carrey. And I was like, well, we'll just have to do 12 months of Jim Carrey. Like, so first of all, we're not going to do 12 months of Jim Carrey. But while I was watching this, I thought, actually, Jim Carrey and Mike Myers are a pretty instructive comparison. They're both Canadian comic actors. They both kind of broke out around the same time and have had really lengthy careers. They both always like had ambitions to do stuff other than goofy comedies. But I remember, because I was like a Jim Carrey stan before I was a Mike Myers guy. And I remember Jim Carrey, like, critics hated him. Like, he was just treated like an absolute buffoon. And the movies that he was coming out with were actually pretty good. Like, I recently, since COVID, I rewatched the first Ace Ventura. Doesn't hold up in a lot of ways, especially in its transgender representation or its like treatment of disabled people. But it's funny in some ways. It's definitely a hell of a lot funnier than fucking Love Guru.
Yeah. I also think, I mean, obviously, this is more of a critique on the humor and not its representation of disabled people and trans people. But like, it was for kids. Or like younger people, because I saw it when I was a kid. Even if the humor wasn't necessarily like appropriate, quote unquote, for children, I feel like a lot of people saw it when they were like older child, younger teens, and I feel like that's like who would be enjoying it anyway.
Yeah, I wasn't even fucking when I saw it when I was probably honestly too young to see Ace Ventura, but I was not thinking about. I didn't know what a trans person was. And like, I guess you could argue that maybe it colored my, it could have like bred prejudice in me, but I don't even know if I would go that far. I think I was just like, that was weird, whatever. Back to the funny guy talking with his butt.
Right. Yeah. And that's what I'm saying is like the humor, like the talking with his butt humor, like that's not an adult joke.
Right.
It's not directed at like the adult audience,
Right. I rewatched the Mask in the last year or so. That also didn't really hold up, but like whatever. And that's even more like, this is not, serious. But I watched Dumb and Dumber like a week ago. That movie fucking rules.
Yeah,
that movie is still so good. And it just makes me think like this whole time, Jim Carrey was being treated, like I said, like a complete buffoon. Like they acted like he was fucking Rob Schneider out here. And meanwhile, Mike Myers is being praised as a comedic genius. He's like the fucking Stanley Kubrick of comedy. And then who's laughing now? Because let me tell you something. Jim Carrey may not be at the top of his game right now, but he never made a movie like The Love Guru. So that's all I've got to say about that.
Yeah, and also he made the better Dr. Seuss movie.
That's exactly. Oh, that's another parallel. They were both in ridiculous prosthetics for Dr. Seuss movies, but Jim Carrey came out on top, and he's been more successful as a dramatic actor too. So don't hold your breath for 12 months of Jim Carrey. I'm just saying that if you want to think about it, if you think about the parallels, there's an interesting comparison to be made. And I think a lot of critics owe Jim Carrey an apology and don't owe Mike Myers a fucking thing. So jumping into the film, I guess, first of all, we'll do our metrics. 50 seconds, minutes to Mike, which is, I hesitate to say good, because like, do you ever want to see Guru Pitka? Like, is there a time, an appropriate amount of time between a movie starting and when you see this Mike Myers? I think it would be eternity. But you see him in 50
I
seconds.
wish I had never seen him in this costume.
It's the fastest that we visually see Mike Myers. So we heard his voice at 38 seconds in the first Wayne's World, and we heard his voice at 39 seconds in the first Austin Powers. But this is the first time that you actually see him. Ironically, though, at the time that you see him, the voice coming out of him is Morgan Freeman.
Oh, yeah. So talk about recycled jokes. They did that in the fucking Cat in the Hat. The voiceover thing. He's got a voiceover machine.
You're right. Oh my God, that is low. Recycling.
And he still does the Cat in the Hat, the like jogging with his hand thing that the Cat in the Hat did. Yeah. This is totally like Cat in the Hat era. There's so many like, it's like when Prince did the Black Album and then did Love Sexy. The Cat in the Hat is Mike Myers' Black Album and Love Guru is his Love Sexy.
And that makes so much sense too, because he was in a really dark place when he did Cat in the Hat, and the Love Guru is supposed to be like his spiritual awakening.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God! The voiceover machine is the When Two Are in Love of Mike Myers. I didn't even realize that, and yeah, that's like a new low. Obviously, we know that Mike Myers is an inveterate self-plagiarist, but I never would have thought that he would plagiarize his second worst movie with his worst movie. Like, that is just so bad. We'll talk about that in just a second. I will say that this is a reasonably high mic proof, although not as, while I was doing it, I was like, ooh, this is going to scale really well on the mic proof, because even though I feel like he's a little less central than, the Austin Powers, and he only plays one character, which I think is honestly what gave this a lower score. But he's in almost every scene, even if it's just like a hockey game is happening and he's in the stands. You see Pitka in almost every scene. So I thought it would be higher than it was. I got 180 proof, which is like respectable. It's like Wayne's World level, approaching first Austin Powers level. But it definitely, any movie with multiple Mike Myers characters in it blows it out of the water. And again, like, this is the worst Mike Myers character. So do we really want to see him in every scene? The answer is no. So the voiceover box, the movie starts, we hear Mike Myers' voice. We hear Morgan Freeman's voice. The joke being that Morgan Freeman was doing a lot of voiceovers at the time. I think this is right around the time that like March of the Penguins happened and stuff like that. This brings up an issue for me, which is that there are a lot of cameos in this movie, and nobody comes out looking great. Like, honestly, by the end of it, I was more impressed by the people who wouldn't make a cameo. Like, for example, they late in the movie, they simulate an appearance on Oprah. And it's very clear that Oprah, they just use footage of her. She never actually came on set. And I was like, good for you, Oprah.
Well, here's something funny. I watched the credits, and in the credits, Oprah Winfrey voice double is used. Yeah. Michelle Marshall is the Oprah Winfrey voice double.
Yeah, because they needed somebody to be like, Guru Pitka. So they got a lady to do it. So yeah, Oprah doesn't do it. There's a scene later on, spoiler alert, where Pitka distracts Justin Timberlake's character with a Celine Dion concert because he's French Canadian, and sure enough, Celine Dion did not taint herself with this movie. So I was really rooting for the people that didn't make cameos in this movie by the end of it, because there's a lot of cameos. I already mentioned Deepak Chopra. I already mentioned Morgan Freeman. Stephen Colbert and Jim Gaffigan are in it. This is kind of like, I feel
Kanye West is in it.
Kanye West is in it. Totally squandered cameo, by the way, because that's after the Hurricane Katrina thing. And, it's like they're acknowledging, I guess they're acknowledging it in so much as Mike Myers and Kanye West are standing next to each other in a scene of this movie. Right. And I guess they thought that was intrinsically hilarious.
Right. Yeah. He just keeps yelling, "I love hockey." It's really, really bizarre.
Yeah.
I guess if I did a cameo in Mike Myers' movie, I would do everything to make sure it wasn't funny and just keep yelling something, destroying all the takes. He was not supposed to yell, "I love hockey."
Yeah, it's Kanye playing. He's playing 7-dimensional chess. It's like those elaborate narratives that people came up with about like how he's not really a Trump supporter. It's all just an performance art piece. This is the original one of that.
Oh, so strategy. You should have yelled something about Mike Myers doesn't love Indian people, because that's very apparent in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's another thing we can talk about. So the movie it's starting out and introducing. Did you happen to make a note of what the town was named? Because it was like a really stupid Hindustani pun.
Nope, I did not. There were so many of those fucking puns, I tuned them out.
They're so bad. The worst is, again, I have to blame Ben Kingsley. Ben Kingsley is honestly, he comes out of this the worst.
I hope that Ben Kingsley was completely responsible for his characterization. They just like, he wasn't even written like that. They just said like, yeah, so we're just going to leave this character up to you. And he came out, he's like, I'm going to be cross-eyed. I'm going to have this ridiculous offensive name. He came up with the stink mop idea.
Yeah. And they're like so starstruck by Ben Kingsley that they're like, I guess we have to let him do this. I feel really weird about this, but I guess it's Ben Kingsley. That's the worst. Is that he's Guru Tuggin Maputa.
Is a puta a penis?
I guess. I guess it's one of those things where I assumed it was a penis just because of context. Anyway, the town, I looked up the town. It is Heron Makeister. Is this so hack, like the Hawaiian, like a Hawaiian king named Kamana Wanalea, which actually, the more I think about it, I think Mike Myers made that joke in an earlier, that's ringing a bell to me. I think he made that joke in an earlier movie. My point is, it's total hack comedy. I don't want to give the impression that I was sitting here offended by the Love Guru, because it's honestly beneath contempt. It's just fucked up. There's no excuse for it. And like the movie takes pains to be like, oh, he was an American, his parents were missionaries and they died, and he was raised by this guru, so it's okay. And I just feel like,
why does he have a big prosthetic nose on then?
I know. I just feel like if you're that's like saying, like doing a minstrel show but you're like, I'm actually white. It's like, it doesn't make it better. Like he's still doing a fucking accent, and he's still got the like Maharishi beard and all that. It's just like this is one of those,
like, more to the point of like, I wasn't sitting here offended. It was like, I just think about how like there's all this rhetoric about like, oh, we can't be funny anymore. You can't say anything because it'll offend someone. It's because offensive jokes like this are not fucking funny.
Right.
Like, they're never funny. This is what you're fighting for, so that you can be politically incorrect, so you can make a joke like tugging on my puta or whatever, and stink mop.
I honestly, if this is what cancel culture is protecting from us, bring it on. Like,
yeah, that's what I'm saying. That is exactly what I'm saying. Punching down isn't funny, and especially like someone who's actually Indian can make fun of their own culture, like Hindu culture or whatever, like Bollywood, all that stuff, and make it funny because they actually know what they're talking about. And that's what would make it funny. Now, like, you could argue about who should be laughing at that too. But I'm saying, like, from like the voice that the comedy comes from should actually know what the fuck they're talking about. And the reason this isn't funny, but like Wayne's World and the first Austin Powers were, is because Mike Myers was actually writing from stuff that he knew about. Like Wayne was based on people he knew.
Right.
And like Austin Powers was based on stuff he was interested in and knew a lot about. Just like punching down and making fun of Indian culture when you obviously don't fucking know anything about it, and the best shit you can come up with is stink mop. Right. Like it's not even that it's offensive, which like it is. I'm not denying that people have the right to be offended about this, but what I'm saying is I can't personally get there because it's so goddamn bad that first and foremost it's offensive to me because it's not funny.
It's artistically offensive.
Yeah, like that's kind of where I that's where I hit a wall. Like, I can't be offended by this because it's so shitty that it's like that's where I'm at my capacity for hating it at that point. I can't even talk about how problematic it is because it's like it doesn't matter because, again, nobody saw it, so it doesn't matter if it was problematic. Everyone knows that you can't make jokes like this, but it's also like it's just not good.
Yeah.
That's the main point. It's just not good.
Yeah. So yeah, we have this introduction. This is what introduces us to Mike Myers and his stupid Deepak Chopra impression. And like I said, the voice is kind of supposed to be Deepak Chopra. The look is very Maharishi. I've been going through like a Beatles phase again recently. There was like, the Beatles was my favorite band growing up, and every once in a while I kind of like rediscover their music. And I was listening to one of their like Hindustani, sitar songs. And I was like, all I can think about is the fact that I'm going to be watching The Love Guru soon. And so thanks a lot, Mike Myers. You fucking ruined the Beatles. So basically the whole movie is kind of structured. It cuts back and forth between stuff that Pitka is doing and a hockey show, which is hosted by the aforementioned Stephen Colbert and Jim Gaffigan. I feel like Colbert, at least, was too famous to be in this movie. Because this is, after the Colbert Report and the Daily Show, and I just feel like he could have done better.
Even like John Oliver is in this too, and I think that was around the time that it was before like his current show, but he was on the Daily Show, and
he was on the Daily Show. He was on Community around this time. Yeah, like none of these people are coming out of this looking good. Colbert is like fine. It's like there's this one joke that he used to be an addict, and he's supposedly in recovery, but it's like very obvious that he's relapsing.
Because drug addiction is hilarious.
Yeah, it is. It's weirdly a breath of fresh air just because it's not about poop or pee or dicks. But it's not that good. So anyway, there's all these interstitials about hockey. We're introduced to Romany Falco. Interesting fact, you probably already know this, Callie, but Romany Falco wrote and performed MC Scat Cat's rap from Opposites Attract. So
I actually didn't, but I'll add that to my Scat Facts spreadsheet.
So even Romany Falco is like, wow, how far has MC Scat Cat fallen that he's now co-starring in The Love Guru?
Yeah, even MC Scat Cat can come out of this movie looking good.
He plays a character named Darren Roanoke, who is a hockey player. I feel like in kind of a model of self-restraint, they do not make a big deal out of the fact that he's a black hockey player. That is like kind of part of the joke, but they don't really. I think they call him the Tiger Woods of hockey, and that's it. So congratulations for not being racist in this one particular case.
Right. Yeah. There's a point in my notes, the part where they're going to the church where his mom sings at, and I was like, oh no, they're at a black church. It's about to get way more racist, and surprisingly, it didn't. So
yeah. It didn't get more or less racist. It stayed the exact same.
Yeah, there is one part towards the end where he's locked in his room. There's a whole thing with his mom, but basically his mom comes to talk to him, and he won't talk to her. And so Guru Pitka goes up to the door, and he asks him if he could come in and talk to him, and he lets Guru Pitka come in and talk to him. And then he looks at the mom and is like, and does like the sassy black woman neck thing, and I was just like, oh God. That is the extent of it, though.
Yeah. So I mean, not bad, all things considered, I guess. So he's this hockey player who plays for the Maple Leafs. Shockingly, this is the first I actually can't believe that the Maple Leafs haven't played a major role in a Mike Myers movie until now.
Hey, that's our dad's favorite team.
Yeah. Yeah. Luckily, our dad never saw the Love Guru, so it didn't ruin the Leafs for him.
Well, I'm afraid that he would like it.
I do remember growing up, one of Dad's favorite movies was Captain Ron. So
and Jingle All the Way.
Yeah, but Captain Ron and Jingle All the Way are like fucking Citizen Kane and Casablanca compared to the Love Guru. So anyway, he the whole story is that his girlfriend, Megan Good, left. Oh yeah, because she has the last name. As you can tell, I paid really close attention to this movie. Left him, or I think he broke up with her, and then she started dating this rival whose name is Jacques Lecoq Grande, and he's a French-Canadian goalie. And then, like I said earlier, the entire joke about him is that he has a just massive dick. Like every time, there's several times where he takes it out, and they put a sound effect of it flopping on the floor, which is just grotesque. Like I actually don't see how that's an asset for him. That actually.
Did you ever see the episode of Weird Sex or whatever that show is on TLC with the guy with the huge penis, and he the whole thing was just him whining about how hard his life is with his huge penis.
Yeah, this is vaguely familiar. Yeah, I feel like
Restrained Sex is what this show is called.
Isn't it like harder to get an erection and stuff like that?
Yeah, you can't. It takes a really long time for her to get a full erection. He has trouble maintaining relationships, and sounds like a horrible existence, at least according to this.
So these are all things that I'm just gonna attribute to Justin Timberlake's character. Also, it actually doesn't work that way because Darren is totally wigged out by the fact that his wife is with this well-endowed French Canadian man, and it's affecting his game. And so the Maple Leafs in this case is owned by Jessica Alba's character. Her name is Jane. She's under pressure to, he's like the star player for the Leafs, so she needs to get him in shape. And somebody recommends that she calls Guru Pitka.
I don't think it's recommended. I think
because she
has a crush on him for some fucking stupid reason.
Because it's a Mike Myers movie. Because every Mike Myers movie, some woman that's out of Mike Myers' league falls in love with him for no good reason.
This is
like the Canadian worst. Woody Allen.
Oh my God, this is the worst offender.
It is.
I'm not sexually attracted to Mike Myers in any role, but I would fuck Austin Powers long before I fuck Guru.
Well, yeah, because at least
so repulsive in this.
At least I feel like Wayne charmed Cassandra because he's funny. I mean, same thing with Austin Powers. I feel like Austin Powers, it was his charm that got to her, and it's not like she immediately this weird little Canadian man with a giant beard is hot stuff. Jessica Alba, am in love with this man. This totally just strains credulity at every level. So yeah, so she has a crush on him, and I guess she wants to use this as an excuse to meet him. Smash cut to Pitka playing a sitar, of course. And then it turns into Dolly Parton's 9 to 5, and he proceeds to sing the entire goddamn song. Or at least multiple verses. I don't know if he sings the whole song, but he sings too much of it. It's like just the two of us in Austin Powers all over again. Like, musical parodies do not need to go on this long. This is where we meet John Oliver, who plays Pitka's manager. The whole joke about him is that his name is Richard Pants. That joke was apparently too subtle, so they have Mike immediately say Dick Pants. So there you go.
So here's something about this movie is that if all of the jokes are going to be over-explained, they're not funny, and then they become less funny when they are outright explained to you.
It's like a weird. We've talked before about the let's call it the Mike flop. It's like when Mike Myers tells a joke and then he just sort of hangs there and nervously just lets the joke dissipate into the air like a fart. And we've said several times that this is the worst. Mike is flopping so much. I can't handle all this Mike flopping. And this is by far the worst because it's the jokes are the least funny. He's predicting way too much laughter. And so he's just kind of hanging there. And then a lot of the time he nervously and almost sheepishly explains the joke that he just made. And it's that doesn't make it funny. It finally.
What's the worst one? Are you about to explain it? Because
it broke me in the end. And I actually laughed in the end. In the way that you laugh at a funeral. It was the kind of laughter that has no actual humor behind it. But so at the end, Ben Kingsley as Tuggan Maputa shows up, and he tells he tells Pitka, we'll get into the details of this, but he tells him that the magic was inside him all along, and whatever. And so then he's supposed to disappear in a puff of smoke, and so the smoke clears and Tuggan Maputa is still there. And you just hear Pitka mumble under his breath, "Oh, sometimes it doesn't work." And it's just It's just so stupid. It was my onion carriage moment.
I can't even explain how for a lot of these movies I've been just like completely mirthless. This was absolutely the worst one of them. Like I was actually just like upset watching this. Like I was just taking notes, and half of my notes are just like, wow, this shit sucks. I didn't laugh once during the movie. Like not even like a mirthless laugh. I didn't laugh once. I didn't even crack a smile. But now I'm laughing just like explaining the jokes after the fact is funnier than
right.
Explaining how horrible the movie is funnier than just watching the movie.
So yeah, there's all of this. They explain every joke. So when a guy named Richard Pants shows up, like, don't worry if you don't get it. They will explain that it's because Dick is short for Richard.
Also, Dick Pants isn't even a fucking joke. Dick Pants? What does it mean?
Yeah, it's like a dick and something in the vague proximity of a dick. Like
Dick pants. What are dick pants?
Yeah, if it was like Richard Head or something, like that's a joke. Like I can't believe that I'm helping. Like, why did I not get to punch up the Love Guru? Like, I don't even think I'm that funny, but I'm funnier than this. So we found out that Pitka has this rivalry with Deepak Chopra. I think it's probably around this time there's a flashback to his childhood. Just a truly cursed image where they, instead of hiring an actor who not even looks like Mike Myers, just looks like he could play Mike Myers. So like a white boy with brown hair. Like
just a child. Like that's happened before, but they just have a fucking kid play him. And it's like, okay, well, I understand due to context clues who this is supposed to be.
Right. Instead, I guess out of comedic reasons, they have Mike Myers awkwardly CGI'd onto a child's body, and it is one of the most troubling things I've ever seen. And I remember this from when the first time I saw it, 13 years ago or whatever. And that was one of the only things about this movie that stuck in my head, and not in a good way. It's nightmare fuel. But he apparently grew up, Deepak Chopra, who once again gave his blessing for this movie, appears in it multiple times. Deepak Chopra is apparently a fellow devotee of Guru Tuggan Maputa. This is also where Tuggan Maputa is introduced. The one thing that I will say about him that we haven't mentioned yet, I think you mentioned the fact that his eyes are constantly crossed. I feel like he farts at least twice in every scene he's in. He's like this movie's fat bastard, but it's not even played by Mike Myers. I honestly have to wonder if Mike Myers had some kind of degenerative brain condition beginning in the late 90s, because it's all like kindergarten level body comedy. It's not even like it's just to say that it's a fart joke is to dignify it, because it's not even a joke. It's just a fart. Like it's so bad. So
it's also like kind of insulting to Deepak Chopra that this man was his guru.
I know. That's why I'm so shocked to find out that Mike Myers was actually he read Deepak Chopra's stuff. Because I mean, if I watched this movie and you said, what do you think Mike Myers thought of Deepak Chopra? I would have thought that this was like a savage satire of the whole thing. Pitka is he's narcissistic. He's fame hungry. His whole purpose. He has two purposes. He wants to get on Oprah because he wants to be as successful a guru as Deepak Chopra, and he wants to fuck Jessica Alba. So he's like very unguru-like. And I was thinking, so there was a part where he was like flirting with the women, and that and his whole look reminded me of the Maharishi, who of course had some sex scandals. And I was thinking that if this was a equally racist but slightly more daring comedy, this might have been saying something about the whole guru industrial complex and the way it opens itself up for sexual harassment. But it's not even that. It's like actually Mike Myers believes in the spiritual messages that Pitka is imparting. And apparently Deepak Chopra has no problem with you thinking that his teacher was a flatulent, cross-eyed Ben Kingsley.
I hope that someone watched this and assumed it was a documentary. Actually, the backstory of Deepak Chopra.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. This is kind of like a mildly funny thing here, just because of the absurdity of it. Is Dick Pants holds up a copy of the Los Angeles Times, and it has a story about the rivalry between Pitka and Deepak Chopra. And I'm like, how slow is the news day in Los Angeles that this is on the front page? Like,
this is an alternate universe where like Deepak Chopra is way more important than he is.
Yeah, like I know that he's a best-selling author and he's on Oprah and stuff, but was there really nothing else going on in LA than this this competition between two celebrity gurus? Like, it's so weird. And then there's a bunch of magazine covers like Guru Weekly, and like it's just like, what is this world? Like,
hey, I have a question. Why the fuck is Val Kilmer in this?
That is an excellent question, and it just made me sad because when Val Kilmer was on screen, it was like this breath of fresh air. It totally lit up the and he wasn't even doing anything. It was just like, oh my God, somebody else. And it's Val Kilmer. And then it made me sad about the fact that he's ailing now. It made me sad about the fact that he's no longer on screen. It made me sad about the fact that he was in the movie. Like it just left me with all of these emotions. But him being on screen for 30 seconds was probably the highlight of the movie for me. Highlight of the movie, low light of Val Kilmer's career, and that's including Batman Forever. So, but yeah, there's like another just totally random cameo. This whole next scene, we just see the Love Guru. His thing is acronyms. Like he has these dumb acronyms for all of his like mnemonics.
One of them is EIEIO.
Oh my God! Yes.
I don't have anything to say about it.
Again, just like
so fucking stupid.
Mike Myers has kindergarten brain. Like, did he just have a kid after this came out or something? Like, what the fuck? Like, what is going on? So yeah, he does the dumb acronyms that are like barely jokes. Another callback actually to the acronym humor in Cat in the Hat, but ironically, the acronyms in this at least PG-13 rated comedy that is extremely vulgar was probably more child-friendly than the acronyms in Cat in the Hat. Right. His other thing is he says Mariska Hargitay, like as a, like a namaste, but it's the actress Mariska Hargitay. And if you thought that they were going to go even 5 minutes without him saying Mariska Hargitay to Mariska Hargitay, then you've been watching a different Mike Myers movies than we have, because they definitely do that. This brings up the, I kind of stopped keeping track of catchphrases because this whole exercise has been making me lose my motivation for all kinds of things. But I did actually make a point of keeping track of catchphrases for this one because I was like, oh, surely this must be catchphrase central. This is the nadir of Mike Myers comedy. So this has to be dumb catchphrases. I only counted 2, maybe 3. So there's Mariska Hargitay. There's the dumb giggle that he does, which is probably the most employed catchphrase. And then I'm kind of adding this after the fact. I didn't count this at the time, but he did it enough times that I was like, okay, I'll grandfather this in as a catchphrase. But it's that thing he does. I don't remember exactly how it goes. I'll probably just drop it in if there's a clip online, but it's like pound it, something.
Oh,
break the pickle.
Break the pickle. Yeah. I thought I remembered it better than I did too.
Yeah.
It's like he locks it or something.
Yeah, something like that.
It's stupid.
He does it a few times in the movie, and I guess that's a catchphrase. But I mean, 3 is not great. I guess maybe stink mop is a catchphrase.
Stink mop. Stink mop. Wait a minute. I actually took a screenshot of Love Guru quotes from Rotten Tomatoes. So here they are. People may say bad things about you, but you should never say bad things about yourself. We already talked about that.
Okay, true spiritual message.
So here's the second one. Mariska Hargitay, ellipses, Mariska Hargitay. That's a quote that they put on Rotten Tomatoes. Next one is, I once read on a bathroom stall, the joke is in your hand. That's the third top quote. And then the fourth is what you were talking about. Give me a pound, lock it down, break the pickle, tickle, tickle.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah. The joke is in your hand.
Those are the top 4 quotes on Rotten Tomatoes from this movie.
Do you remember where the joke is in your hands went? Because it went to a really weird place, and I'm still confused about this. Pitka has this like servant, apprentice. I don't know. Like, I'm confused by their relationship. His name is Rajneesh.
It heavily implied that they're kind of gay too.
Yes, that's what it's because he says the thing about the joke is in your hands. And then he was like, actually, the joke was in Rajneesh's hands. I'm like, was he saying that Rajneesh was jacking him off? Because I don't know how else to interpret that line.
Okay, but also he's got a fucking, so we forgot to mention this, but he's got a chastity belt on. So how is that even possible? It's not even consistent with the goddamn story.
Right. And then there were just a couple of other moments, like they sing more than words together, which we all know it's like homoerotic central. You know, it's 2 guys with acoustic guitars singing at each other. So,
but they sing that before a date with what's her name?
Yeah. I was genuinely, I don't know what they were trying to say.
Yeah, like I don't know. It was just a cheap joke.
Right.
That's all it was.
Right.
And then I also like another thing about Bullard, who is Jessica Alba's character, who I just referred to as what's her name because I couldn't remember her character's name or the actress's name for a second there because I don't care. They introduced this. I honestly, when they were like resolving it, that was when I noticed that it was a thing. I didn't even understand when they introduced it, but I guess there's this thing called the Bullard curse.
Oh yeah,
and it's totally. It's completely just shoehorned in because the whole thing is so that she can like use some of the teachings at the end because I guess there's this thing where like fans of the Toronto Maple Leafs don't like her because they think that she is the reason the team is failing or whatever.
Right.
And so they'll like be mean to her and throw things at her so she can't come out onto the field, and there's like a line where she can come out before the fans start like throwing shit at her.
Right.
And then at the end, she ends up like using some of Guru Pitka's lines to like shut the fans down. But there's like no point in this whole subplot. Like it's so stupid and pointless.
Yeah, it's just to like give her depth, I guess. Like it didn't work. So I guess we should mention the chastity belt because that's I mentioned he has 2 motivations to get on Oprah, to be like the biggest guru, and to have sex with Jessica Alba. In order to have sex with Jessica Alba, he has to have this chastity belt removed. The chastity belt, Tuggan Maputa made him start wearing it because I guess what he said is that he'll never be a great guru if he doesn't learn how to love himself. So he needs to learn how to love himself first. And I guess he just never did that because he still has the chastity belt. He had it put on him when he was like 12 or something. And he still has the chastity belt now as a middle-aged man. So it's, heavily implied that Pitka is a virgin. But also it's heavily implied that he and Rajneesh are fucking. So I don't know what's going on in this movie.
Well, I have something to say about that because there's one point when after the whole part where they're singing a duet, that's like a date with Bullard, and they get like, I guess, close during that date. It doesn't seem like they have any chemistry, but whatever. And then she like leans in to kiss him and he doesn't want to kiss her because when he gets an erection, which I guess he did at this point because you hear like a loud like bell clanging, like a cowbell clanging. And I guess you're supposed to imagine that was his dick hitting the chastity belt.
I guess.
Then she gets mad and leaves because he rejected her. But then at the end, Guru Tuggan Maputa tells him that he had the power to remove the chastity belt all along, which is pretty fucked up.
I know.
Just ruined this man's life. for the last like 30 years or whatever, making him wear this. And it was the same thing as Austin Powers 2. That was the same fucking thing where he lost his mojo and he's like, oh, I can't have sex with this woman. Woman gets mad because she thinks he's rejecting him. So she storms out and then like he's sad about it. And then they get together at the end and it turns out, oh, I could have had sex with you the whole time because this thing doesn't matter. It's like we already saw this shit and it was dumb the first time.
Yeah, I think if this series has taught us that anything, is that Mike Myers has like 3 plots that he just uses endlessly. I don't know. I'm not gonna go fucking scene by scene in this movie. Basically, Pitka meets Bullard. She wants him to help Romany Falco get Romany Malco. I think I've been saying Falco this whole time. Who cares?
I like Falco.
Yeah. She wants him to help Romany Malco get his wife back, and so that he can start winning games again. So Pitka has this whole process. It's another acronym. It's like, what is it? It's like distract. It's drama. Distract. I don't know. He doesn't. The point is, he doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
So that he can say drama, which doesn't make any fucking sense because the word drama is not funny. Like what? Why is drama funny?
Right. I know.
The main one that you care about is distraction.
Right. Because he does that several times.
Spoiler alert. The movie culminates in some elephants humping on a hockey rink to distract everyone, and then like I don't even remember what happens, but that's like the whole thing. And it's earlier in the film. Guru Tagamaipuda mentioned something about how like if elephants are humping, then even like whatever people will look and know. I obviously didn't pay attention to this movie or take notes. But basically, it's foreshadowed that there's going to be elephants humping. It's like the elephants are the Chekhov's gun. They mention these fucking elephants, and then sure enough, at the end of the movie, there's elephants humping, and everyone's distracted.
I felt really stupid, dumb, because they even introduced the second elephant, and I was like, well, this is weird. Why is there an elephant at a hockey game? And I didn't put 2 and 2 together that Pitka was going to ride in on his elephant, and his elephant was going to fuck the other elephant.
I mean, how could you have ever predicted that would happen? To be fair,
I guess the foreshadowing, but like I was not expecting the Love Guru to have foreshadowing.
The thing is, it's not even fucking foreshadowing. It's such a throwaway comment, and there's so much stupid shit in there that you never imagined that. Oh, that's going to be a major plot point, is that these elephants are humping because of something Guru Tagamaipuda said like 45 minutes ago.
So yeah, the whole movie is him trying to help Romany Malco get over not even get over his wife, like reunite with his wife, I guess. I feel like getting over his wife is not even really an option. So first he sneaks into Jacques Lecoq's house to deliver an apology letter that Romany wrote to Prudence. And I don't really have anything to say about the sneaking. It's just like physical comedy. I think he gets mauled by a rooster.
Because Jacques Lecoq has a cock, and hilarious.
It's like whatever. I think the main thing that I feel like this is the time to talk about Justin Timberlake's performance. I mean, I know that this sounds like duh, but it's just bad. Mike Myers as Pitka is not a good performance. It's a bad performance. But Justin Timberlake's performance is on a different level. It's like it's amateurish. It feels like he is in an SNL sketch and everybody else is in a movie. Granted, it's a bad movie, but it just feels like Justin Timberlake, it seems like he practiced his French Canadian accent for like 10 minutes and then was like good enough. They gave him a cheap fake mustache to wear. And then it reminded me of Timberlake on SNL, which is probably one of the reasons why he got this role, because he would be on SNL and he'd be, funny and charming. But watching somebody for 5 minutes in an SNL skit is very different from watching them for 90 minutes in a movie.
He was also way, way, way funnier as one of the Gibb brothers.
Right. They should have just had him play Robin Gibb. And just had Robin Gibb have a massive schlong. Like that would have been.
Wish he does.
That right there would have been funny.
Yeah, and it's not even just his acting. His character just in general makes no sense. It just doesn't make any sense. Like, other than him being Canadian, why does he love Celine Dion? Like, none of this shit makes any sense. So he's this like bizarre person who just has a huge dick, and he lives in a house protected by a tack rooster. and he loves Celine Dion. It's just so strange. Like the characterization is so strange.
So he gets mauled trying to bring the letter to and Prudence is Megan Good, by the way. Who cares? Like, I don't know why are we even bothering? Let's also, I think we finally need to talk about Stink Mop. There's another flashback. So if you've been in suspense about Stink Mop, basically Guru Tuggin My Putta pisses in a bucket and then dips 2 mops in the bucket and then has young Pitka, and I don't think it was, this is interesting, I don't think it was young
Deepak Chopra.
Maybe that was the one thing that Deepak Chopra was like, no, the young version of me is not going to fence with a piss mop. Like that's, I'm not going to sign off on that. But he has Pitka and another student fight with these mops soaked in piss. And the whole time I was watching that, I was just like, I can't believe I'm watching fucking Oscar-winning Ben Kingsley piss in a mop, fart while he's mid-piss, and then having his students fight with the piss mops. I'm just like, what is going on?
And then the entire time they're jousting with these mops, they keep just cutting to him and he'll just keep saying, stick mop, stick mop. That's the joke. The joke, like, it's like, oh, these mops covered in piss is not funny enough, which is true.
Which is true.
But like,
stink mop also isn't funny enough.
Just saying stink mop. That doesn't justify the joke.
We have this flashback. I guess I think that's like, we just have periodic flashbacks to explain. I don't know. I guess just to explain why Pitka is.
Why would I ever, like, this whole part is just so dumb. Because why do I care what Guru Pitka was like as a child? Yeah. I don't give a shit, especially since they later explain that the fucking chastity belt that we were like set up to care about because of these flashbacks,
right,
was a farce and didn't matter.
Right. It's all.
So save some fucking screen time. Yeah. And cut out all of the flashbacks.
So now he's doing his whole drama thing. So first he distracts Darren by, like, he tells him, don't fight back. Like, no matter what, you can't fight. And then he gets the opposing team angry at Darren so that they're all beating his ass. And that's the distraction. So he ends up playing better. But he also ends up getting cut from getting suspended. Because
then Guru Pikka's like, okay, fight anyone for any reason. And so he does. And he gets suspended for 2 games.
Right.
And they're like, oh, I don't know, like, how the Maple Leafs are going to do with this. But then the next game he's playing. So, like,
yeah.
what the fuck was the point?
Yeah, right. So that was the first step. The second step is regress. Basically, we find out that Darren has issues with his mom because his mom was really hard on him. This is the scene where, like you said, she's in the choir at a black church. Then they go out to a bar, and Pitka tries to further regress him by making diarrhea sounds in his cup.
Let me just say that it works.
Yeah.
Within the movie, this works somehow. Outside of the movie, I wanted to shoot myself.
Right. Yeah, it goes on really long. So, and then they have a bar fight with Daniel Tosh. He's in this also.
Oh, okay, that makes sense.
It's Daniel Tosh and another like quasi-famous character actor.
Who cares?
His name is escaping. Yeah, it doesn't matter.
Here's my question: why was Scat Cat wearing a full red leather ensemble? That's what I want
to know. That's a good question. Meanwhile, he's pursuing Jessica Alba. This is where they sing More Than Words to each other, but also to Jessica Alba. And she's like falling for him, but he has a chastity belt, and I guess just won't. It's like, okay, so here's the thing: the whole chastity belt thing is like, obviously it's dumb and contrived and weird, but also he is established as a weirdo. Wouldn't it be reasonable for him to say, like, I took a vow of chastity? She would buy it because she's all in on Pitka. Like, I don't understand why he doesn't tell her. I don't know.
I also don't really understand why she gets mad, because like they act like, oh, I rejected you. But if I'm remembering correctly, she just leans in and his dick dongs against the the chastity belt, but she doesn't know what it is. And she's like, what was that? And maybe he says like, oh, I just can't be with you or whatever. And then she just like immediately like huffs off. It's so strange. Like, it's the same thing with Austin Powers, who is like, why are these women reacting like this?
Right. So at this point, like, Pick is not getting results. If anything, he caused Darren to be benched for 2 days, like you mentioned. So if anything, he's made things worse.
For 2 games.
Yeah.
That he doesn't get benched for, though.
Right.
Like, I'm pretty sure they play those games. Because they show him at multiple games. So it's like, well, what was the point of establishing that he is going to have to sit out for 2 games if you're just going to have him play him?
So then he decides to speed things up because he wants to, because basically
John Oliver's character is pushing him to wrap things up because
he booked Oprah, right? Yeah. So he skips a bunch of steps, still gets Prudence and Darren to make up. Darren seems to be back in action. He wins a bunch of games. Picca's like, all right, well, my work here is done. And then he leaves. He's, getting on the plane, and then he sees that Darren's mother is at the game because Justin Timberlake figured out that Darren has this hang up about his mom. So he got his mom to come to the game because he knows that's going to fuck him up. So they're losing because Darren is like regressing. He goes and hides in his locker room. Picca's racing back to the Staples Center. He also admits that he has the chastity belt. Now the relationship is okay with Jessica Alba. He helps Darren confront his mom. Vern Troyer fakes a heart attack. I forgot to mention, so Vern Troyer is he's like the coach, I think. Basically, they just had faith that Austin Powers' interactions with Mini-Me were so hilarious that it would be equally funny if it was not Austin Powers and not Mini-Me, but still like the same dynamic. So there's a lot of just Picca just aggravating Vern Troyer for no reason. It's dumb and bad. Yeah,
they really lean into the little people jokes. There's this whole part where they're in his office and it's a tiny office, and then
and that's probably the funniest one joke too. Like, that's like, because at least that's kind of absurd. Yeah. The rest is just him like making jokes about little people and Vern Troyer like attacking him. Like,
it's hilarious. You didn't think that was funny when...
So I mean, I'm rushing through this because there's really like, we've kind of, this is, it's just,
there's nothing to fucking talk about. It just sucks.
Yeah, exactly. This is where Picca rides his elephant on the ice. His elephant fucks the circus elephant that was there for some reason.
And then on the Jumbotron, they cut to a fat couple in the audience.
Oh,
and
God.
They're mouthing "I love you" to each other because fat people fucking is equivalent to elephants fucking, and fat people are inherently hilarious, as we know from 2 Austin Powers movies.
And fat people famously identify with elephants. Yeah. So, like, here's what I struggle. I mean, I struggle with a lot of things. It's just so like crass.
It's just bad. Like, I don't even like. It's not like I mind crass things necessarily if they're funny, but it's just like. It's just not good.
Right.
Like, why are elephants fucking? Why is that funny?
I can't think of a gag that revolves around animals fucking that made me laugh. I mean, there might be one. I won't rule it out, but I just can't think of one offhand. And here's the other thing. Like, this doesn't make, so we like Darren's hang up, like the issue that they brought Picca in for is specifically sexual. He's sexually intimidated by this well-endowed hockey player who's fucking his wife. So why in God's name would you try to get his mind off of this by having a giant animal fuck another animal in front of him? Like,
here's something else that's got a bigger dick than you.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, this does not work. Like,
and also,
but it does work.
But also, they take the emphasis away from his like issues with his sexuality, and it's about his mom. Like, that doesn't make any goddamn sense either.
Right. Yeah, and it's also like, the whole thing, they made this big deal out of like, oh, he's skipping the steps. Like, Rajneesh is like, you shouldn't be cutting corners. But he never finishes his therapy. He just goes back to distract again, and that magically cures him. Like, why didn't he just skip to the part where the elephants fuck and save us all an hour of movie?
Yeah, distraction is the first one. So just bring the fucking elephants out.
So that's pretty much the end. He's cured. He wins the game. You know, there's some other like hockey stuff, but it's like, who gives a shit?
The movie ends with a shitty Steve Miller cover,
and it's like the worst Steve Miller song too.
Yeah,
I know that this is a minority opinion. But I
hate the Joker. I can't stand it.
It's not even in my top 10 Steve Miller songs. And I probably
I don't like it at all. I can go right in the fucking bin as far as I'm concerned. What's the best Steve Miller song? There's only one right.
For me, it's either Jungle Love or The Steak. Probably my two favorites.
I forgot about Jungle. Yeah, so okay, there are two right answers, and you passed. Those are mine too. I forgot about Jungle Love. I was just gonna skip right to The Steak, but Jungle Love fucking rules. That actually might be number one, and The Steak is number two.
So in a way, I'm glad that Pitka only ruined.
My God!
My least favorite Steve Miller song, and not my favorite. Can you imagine if he played Jungle Love?
Oh, I would be so. I would throw my remote at the TV.
Yeah, and then we already talked about the part at the end where he's like, you could take the chastity belt off all along.
Which, I'm sorry, he reacts remarkably well to this, because if someone told me that, I would probably attack them.
Yeah, that throws his whole, spiritual life, and it's like everything about his life is now, it was all bullshit. Like he should completely just plummet into despair in that scene. Maybe that's what Love Guru 2 was supposed to be, but we'll never get to see it.
I think I would like that better.
I think so too. I would like a really grim character piece about depressed Pitka. That's the only way I want to see this character again. So yeah, what a shitty movie.
That fucking sucked.
Yeah,
it was terrible.
It can only get better from here. I guess we've got one more movie. It's the fourth Shrek. I, on the one hand, have never been less excited to watch a Shrek movie, and I've never been excited to watch a Shrek movie. But on the other hand, it's kind of like I would rather watch a Shrek movie than this again. So it's like when you hit rock bottom, anything starts to look up.
Then you're here to stay.
Yeah,
as the old song goes.
Yeah, so we're almost to the end, and that is the best thing I have to say right now. Yeah. See you next month.
Think more.